to NRM suspending campaigns in Isingiro over violence after a race between the party's candidates for the Isingiro South seat turned violent. Now, also NUP candidates withdrew from their political races, with some switching to lower positions at that, ahead of the 2026 general elections, citing that this is for the good of the party. Some of these include James Mubiru and Julius Katongole, who withdrew from being MP aspirants, as well as Godfrey Luyombia, who withdrew from the mayoral race in Nakawa, leaving it to Nubian Lee. Meanwhile, going a bit outside of Africa and staying with matters politics, Elon Musk, yes, Elon Musk is launching a new political party. Weeks after dramatically falling out with the US president, who was more like a father to him and he like a son, that these two badly fell out, and as we speak right now, he is indeed in the process of officiating that new political party. But my name is Julie Nantabamusesi, welcoming you back from that weekend, and I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Good morning, Robert.
Well, lovely morning to you, Julie. I must say I love your blazer.
Oh, thank you.
I just love that color, and of course, I love nature.
Right.
So anything similar to green takes me.
Right.
There are two colors that I love, green and black. But otherwise, welcome back from your weekend, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Monday. You have 5 days to start and move with the week. And remember, your mindset, your attitude will determine your altitude. So have a positive mindset, and I guarantee you, you'll fly, you'll excel. And don't forget Christ in everything you do.
Very profound at that. Now, you spoke of the color green, and it reminds me of the color red. I have talked about a story of NUP aspirants who withdrew from their positions that they wanted to aspire for, from MP races to mayoral positions, and they say that this is for the good of the party. What is your take on this particular one, Robert?
First, I want to say it's not a new thing.
Right.
NRM has done this for so many years now. NRM, the only difference is that some withdraw and they are given positions. You know, we've seen
within the party?
Yeah, you know, in the Bible, there's a scripture I'm looking for, but I know you're better than me. It says, in my Father's house, there are many places.
Right.
Now, for NRM, there are many places. We've had people step down for others, and either one becomes an RDC, any appointment, because there are many places. Now, when you come to National Unity Platform, because they are not in power,
right.
One, I want to say these people thought it wise. For example, if you have a man like Nubian Lee in the structures of the party, there are so many factors that favor him against you. Now, unless you're just a spoiler of the vote in that area, that you're coming to candidates, if you're honest to yourself, and I want to thank that person who stepped down in Lubaga for being honest to himself, that by no way would you defeat this person in terms of getting the ticket. It was obvious. He wouldn't. Nope would have been very unwise to give him the ticket and leave Nubian Lee. Remember, we have what we call the sympathy vote. Nubian Lee, some of those people went through what they went through, so there's sympathy vote. Then we have proximity to power. He's also been a celebrity, so that would be something else.
Right.
Now, coming to Lubaga, one, Lubaga is another complicated area for people in NUP. One, you have so many aspirants.
Sure.
Now, when you come to Lubaga South, Aloysius Mukasa, much as he may not have delivered so much on the floor of parliament, and also on the promises, because I don't remember any candidate in Uganda here who injected money in a campaign like Aloysius Mukasa. Mukasa injected money before electing him.
Right.
Everyone was like, if you don't give this money. But also, Aloysius, much as in parliament, he has not been of so much use to the people of Lubaga in terms of deliberation, because he's a laid-back man. That's my Obi I'm speaking about. I know him very well. Now, one thing I want to tell you is he has been loyal to the party.
Yes.
Mukasa Aloysius has been loyal to the principle and the party. Now, I highly doubt that he could miss the ticket. But remember also, we have this comedian there. I usually, Ray, they confuse me, Ray, because I'm also much in that. But he's also been on the ground and been around. Now we have also Rubaga. NUP had a number of contestants there, and if you looked at who may seemingly be the weakling, so it was an honest judgment.
Right.
But also don't forget that he stepped down for another position. You know, if a person just says I'm out of the race, he stepped down for another position where there he's also fairly a big force to beckon with.
Indeed.
Indeed. So this is not new. I don't see news in it, in my opinion.
Right.
These are things that political parties do. Step down. This one is better. But when you have step down and take this force, but also it comes with honest judgment, not to disrupt the vote of your party, because already you know that, well, I can't be a dog barking at a lion. If there is a lion in my party, why cause this confusion? I quit, and more so if there is another cake for me.
Right, a very interesting insight from Robert, and indeed that matters politics, the science of politics, the art of politics, or rather the drama of politics. But what do we have on the local scene today? Well,
we begin with President Museveni with the Balaro again.
Wow.
Very interesting. This will also seem not easy. President Museveni once again weighed in on the contentious issue of the Balaro cattle keepers in northern west and eastern Uganda. In a fresh statement, the president defended his executive orders and accused some Balaro of faulting both local norms and national laws. Museveni outlined a list of violations, including grazing livestock on people's crops, known locally as okwenesa, settling without fencing, and blocking community access routes. He also condemned the occupation of government ranches, warning it undermines national cattle breeding projects and provokes unrest among local residents. The president cautioned how some cattle were relocated without proper permits or safeguards, calling on officials to explain why fencing, water availability, and disease control were overlooked. Museveni accused some herders of acting with impunity, allegedly backed by army relatives in uniform, making it difficult for local justice systems to function. He pointed to successful examples of peaceful coexistence, like in Munyoro Fruit Farm in Nyoya, to show that non-locals can thrive without conflict when they respect community norms. Uganda National Examination Board has reported an increment of over 100,000 registrations at all levels, representing 7.3% increment compared to 2024. The revelation came after the concluded normal registration of candidates awaiting the forthcoming national examinations. The normal registration of candidates, which started months back, has finally come to an end as per the deadline, which was set for 30th June this year, setting another phase of registration of candidates who may have missed out due to shortfalls. At least 1,412,248 candidates have registered, showing an increment of 100,000 registrations at all levels, a figure rounding up to 7.31% increment, unlike 2024. At least 51% of the registered candidates are from government-aided schools. Now, during the normal registration, candidates at primary level were required to pay a registration fee of 34,000, 164,000 for ordinary level, and 186,000 for advanced level, respectively. While the preparations begin for examination activities, UNEB has called upon school heads whose learners may have missed the first registration to utilize the month of July to register their learners. For parents and learners to be sure of completion of their registration, UNEB intends to come up with different measures after cleaning up registration. In most schools, some learners were not registered due to financial encumbrances. Still on the local scene, Cornerstone Church in Webaja hosted a Love Israel Prayer Summit, a spiritual solidarity and divine for the people of Israel. The summit themed "Comfort My People, saith the Lord," drew church leaders and believers from across the region. Over 3 days, participants engaged in extended worship, prayer sessions, and shared testimonies of transformation. The summit's theme was drawn from Isaiah, promise of comfort and restoration, calling the global church to stand with Israel in intercession and compassion. Pastor Daniel Kisa emphasized the biblical mandate to pray for Israel. Joining Pastor Kisa was guest speaker Fiona Magezi, who shared personal testimonies of salvation and miracles. Other pastors shared how the summit strengthened their faith. Finally, from the local scene, now Muslim leaders in Budaka district have been urged to embrace government programs aimed at improving livelihoods and fighting poverty among their communities. The call was made by former Budaka Women Member of Parliament, former Budaka woman aspirant, Sarah Kateike Nindobi, during a special Muslim gathering in Budaka under the theme Fighting Poverty and Promoting Self-Resiliency Among Muslims. An umbrella body, the National Assembly of Imams of Uganda, started training imams across Budaka to foster economic independence within the communities. Former Budaka woman Member of Parliament aspirant Sarah Kataike encouraged Muslims to participate in government programs. Meanwhile, the leader of imams in the area, Sheikh Said Kasauri, called upon government officials to engage with Muslim leadership structures to extend development at all communities. Various local leaders also pledged to support the imams in Budaka to change the conditions under which they serve their communities. Well, indeed, imams needed help and financial support at that. They do much, but usually their financial conditions are a challenge.
That's very true. Now, moving on to what is on the foreign scene, starting off with Texas, at least 78 people have been confirmed dead in the central Texas, and another 41 are missing following flash floods on Friday. 68 of the fatalities include 28 children that occurred in Carr County, where a Riverside Christian girls' camp was deluged. 10 girls and a counselor from Camp Mystic are still missing. Officials say the death toll is certain to rise. More storms are expected in the next 24 to 48 hours in the region, which could hamper rescue teams who are already facing venomous snakes as they sift through mud and debris. 3 days after inundation, one of the largest search and rescue efforts in recent Texas history was shifting towards a recovery operation. Of those recovered in Carr County, 18 adults and 10 children have yet to be formally identified. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on Sunday that authorities would stop at nothing to ensure every missing person is found. A major focus on the search has been Camp Mystic, a popular summer camp for girls perched on the banks of the Guadalupe River, which suffered significant damage. The catastrophe unfolded before daybreak on Friday as the riverside rose 26 feet in the span of just 45 minutes, while most campers were asleep. Now, moving on to matters Trump and Elon Musk. U.S. President Donald Trump has hit out after former close ally Elon Musk over the multi-billionaire's plan to launch a new political party. "I think it's ridiculous to start a third party," said Trump, speaking to reporters on Sunday before boarding Air Force One. "It's always been a two-party system, and I think starting a third party just adds to the confusion." After teasing the idea for weeks, Musk posted on X over the weekend that he had set up the America Party to compete against the Republican and Democratic parties. Trump and Musk were formerly close allies, with the Tesla boss leading the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is tasked with helping to cut federal spending. Trump also posted on his Truth Social platform on Sunday, "I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks." The post took aim at Musk's push for an electric vehicle mandate, saying it would have forced everyone to buy an electric car in a short period of time. The president's tax and spending plan, which he signed into law on 4th July, ended tax breaks for electric vehicles. Now, coming back to the continent, the U.S. has deported 8 people to South Sudan following a legal battle that saw them diverted to Djibouti for several weeks. The men, convicted of crimes including murder, sexual assault, and robbery, had either completed or were near the end of their prison sentences. Only one of the 8 is from South Sudan. The rest are nationals of Myanmar, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos, and Mexico. U.S. officials said most of their home countries had refused to accept them. The Trump administration is working to expand its deportations to Third Cone. It has deported people to El Salvador and Costa Rica. Rwanda has confirmed discussions, and Benin, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini, and Moldova have been named in media reports as potential recipient countries. A photo provided by the Department of Homeland Security to CBS News, the BBC's U.S. partner, showed the men on the plane, their hands and feet shackled, and officials did not say whether the South Sudanese government had detained them or what their fate would be. Edmund Yakani, who runs a civil society organization in South Sudan, told the BBC World Service that he was allowed to briefly see the 8 people, but did not get a chance to speak to any of them. Well, that brings us to the end of what is on the foreign scene. Let's have a look at what is in the dailies today, Robert.
Oh, there's a story I'll seek your opinion later.
Right.
Now, let's begin with the New Vision this morning, where Paul covered Acholi, Lango, and West Nile. Now, northern Uganda, voters choose members of parliament. Remember, these are opinion polls, and I see figures there, Jimmy Akena, Jeno Moses Ali, among many others there. Now, NRM, Museveni nominated as NRM sole presidential flag bearer. So no one is competing from the party with His Excellency, the chairperson of the party. Now, retired general and minister clash. Who are these who clashed? Well, and why smoked fish may give you cancer. Go slow. Now, Eritrean investors assured of protection, and so many other stories in the New Vision. Now, here I come to the Daily Monitor this morning. And here in the Daily Monitor, merchants of abortion. This is a very touching story, I must say. Now, when you look at this, for a fee, young girls are finding themselves in the hands of brokers operating in the dark, who lead them to abortion clinics. Now, one will tell you brokers charge between 150 and 500 to link girls to abortion clinics. Now, here we have abortion clinics locations. The clinics which Daily Monitor surveyed were scattered across neighborhoods of Machindye, Masajja, Makerere, Nankurabye, and Namasuba, all in Kampala suburbs. Now, appointments only available during evening hours between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. and only for abortion. Now we come here, what the law says, well, in case it is forcefully done or anything, you will face imprisonment for 14 years. Now here, still there is so much. After the price is agreed upon, brokers instruct clients to transfer payments via mobile money on lines that are not registered in their name, doctor's or broker's name. So the line that you're using to send the money is not for the doctor, neither for the broker's name, for the broker. So these things of abortion, then Museveni defends order to evict Balalo from northern Uganda. Now, this is the question I want to ask you. It has both morals and also spiritual aspect.
Right.
I've had a number of activists that are saying women should be let free to decide for their bodies.
Right.
If someone feels this pregnancy they're not comfortable to carry, or they feel they don't see a bright future for this child, or they feel it happened, but it's not what they want to carry, that they should be left. We shouldn't have laws that instruct them what to do with their bodies. As long as there's a certain period, we should say, then they should be left. If someone feels, yes, I should abort, then let them do what they want. It's their body after all. Why would you come to my body and then describe or set a law of how I should govern my body? I just want your opinion.
Is it your body, really? Did you create it? Did you give it to yourself? There's a being that gave it to you, and I believe that being must govern how you treat it.
Well, some have said, you look at this, what you're carrying, the future for this child. Sometimes you look at the man, that's when you discover it. He was a useless creature that will not be there, and you may not tussle it out alone.
Yeah, it's not your body. That means there are principles that govern how you treat it even before you engage to decide whether that man... So you believe in Ulimwana Riziki? Well, that could apply, but I believe in the fact that because it's not your body, you did not give it to yourself. There's a being that created it that governs
and has created another being there.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
now let's move on to Tanzania with the Citizen. What World Bank's higher poverty threshold means. That is a headline in the Citizen. And the World Bank has introduced a new global poverty threshold, raising the international poverty line from $2.15 to $3 per person per day. In local terms, the new benchmark translates to approximately 7,835 Tanzanian shillings per person per day, or 234,000 Tanzanian shillings per month, using the prevailing exchange rate of 2,611.6 per dollar. Now that is a headline in the Citizen, but quickly looking at what is in the Daily Nation. Sabasaba tests. Anniversary, police deployments ramped up to secure protesters, curb looting. And still in the Daily Nation, echoes from the past 35 years since the inaugural Sabasaba pro-reform demos on July 7,190. That country continues to grapple with poor governance, corruption, abductions, extrajudicial killings, and other ills issues that have now compelled the Gen Z who are not yet born to pick up the mantle in the fight of good governance. That's a story in the Daily Nation, and it brings us to the end of what we have in the dailies. Make sure that you get yourself a copy and get engaged with all the stories in there. Good Morning Uganda does continue. We have a conversation on fostering independence in a child. Now, this might sound shaky for a Ugandan culture or African culture at that, but is it worth it? That's a conversation we're having in the real. For now, enjoy some music from Pastor Wilson Bugembe and Damasco Sesanga. Very well. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from the weekend. On this 7th day of July, we are coming to you live from UBC TV. Now, the weekend was full of quite some activity, from the NRM party nominating and endorsing President Museveni as the NRM chairperson, but also as the official flag bearer for the 2026 presidential race, to NRM suspending campaigns in Isingiro over violence after a race between the party's candidates for the Isingiro South seat turned violent. Now, also NUP candidates withdrew from their political races, with some switching to lower positions at that, ahead of the 2026 general elections, citing that this is for the good of the party. Some of these include James Mubiru and Julius Katongole, who withdrew from being MP aspirants, as well as Godfrey Luyombia, who withdrew from the mayoral race in Nakawa, leaving it to Nubian Lee. Meanwhile, going a bit outside of Africa and staying with matters politics, Elon Musk, yes, Elon Musk is launching a new political party. Weeks after dramatically falling out with the US president, who was more like a father to him and he like a son, that these two badly fell out, and as we speak right now, he is indeed in the process of officiating that new political party. But my name is Julie Nantabamusesi, welcoming you back from that weekend, and I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Good morning, Robert.
Well, lovely morning to you, Julie. I must say I love your blazer.
Oh, thank you.
I just love that color, and of course, I love nature.
Right.
So anything similar to green takes me.
Right.
There are two colors that I love, green and black. But otherwise, welcome back from your weekend, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Monday. You have 5 days to start and move with the week. And remember, your mindset, your attitude will determine your altitude. So have a positive mindset, and I guarantee you, you'll fly, you'll excel. And don't forget Christ in everything you do.
Very profound at that. Now, you spoke of the color green, and it reminds me of the color red. I have talked about a story of NUP aspirants who withdrew from their positions that they wanted to aspire for
so many years. Now, NRM, the only difference is,
morning to you if you've just joined in and if you've just switched your TV set on. Thank you so much for choosing UBC TV. If you've been with us since the start, thank you for being on UBC TV. It's Good Morning Uganda. My name is Julie Nantabamusisi, and it's time for The Real, where we get to engage in a topic of discussion, where we share our 2 cents, but most importantly, when an expert is here to speak to us, it means a lot because we even learn more with a lot of value in there. So share your opinion or ask your question using the number 0709602592. It's the WhatsApp number that you are able to engage and share your opinion or ask your question. Now, with the new school curriculum comes an opportunity to explore how the education policy and community efforts can support holistic development amongst the children and students as well as pupils of Uganda. And to help us throw insight into that is Dr. Charles Tony Mukasa Lusambu, who is the Owezo board member. In studio with us is him to speak into this matter. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Uganda, and I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, getting straight into it, define life skills and values in the context of holistic values.
Yes. It's a big one.
Right.
But we shall chop it into pieces, and the listeners will be able to really understand what it entails. First of all, you talk about holistic education. Holistic education is a type of education that really caters for the holistic appearance or growth of a person. This touches the brain, which we call the cognitive domain. It touches the heart, which is the affective domain. And then it touches the hands and the legs, which is the psychomotor. So those are the 3 human domains that entail holistic education. Right. The cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor domain. Now, when you train the three, then you have trained and have got the holistic person. We must look for a type of education that will cater for these three: the brain, the heart, and then the hands. In the old style, we used to call them the 3 H's: the head, the heart, the hand. So those three are very, very important. Now let's go to the skills and the values. Among the skills, especially when we talk about life skills, we are talking about things to do with problem solving. Problem solving, because in this world we live through challenges, and we would love this human being to turn problems into challenges so that he can be able to handle bit by bit, but be able to overcome a problem. Then we are talking about critical thinking. Can this human being look at an issue and look at it critically? When someone gives you a bottle and says this bottle is half empty, another one will say it's half full, then the interpretation of the two answers is very, very important. They are all talking about the similar content of the water in the bottle, but because of different reasons, they say, one will say it is half full, another will say it is half empty. Now, a child should be able to interpret these statements, critical thinking, to think really critically, not look at an issue on the surface, but look at an issue from the inside part of it. When you get a question, can this child analyze the question, give the pros and the cons of the issue? Then there is financial literacy, which many of us in education circles tend to miss out to our learners.
That's true.
Yet they grow up into that financial environment, and that space needs to be interpreted. You take the child to school. There is school fees and so on, the requirements. You will ask for pocket money and so on. But does this child get to know how this money is earned? And at the early age is the best time for the child to know these issues. Then when he grows up, he can be able to think through these issues independently, because when he grows up, he'll be independent. But it's important for him to start early, because Stephen Douglas tells you it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Very profound quote from, you said Douglas who?
Stephen Douglas.
Which book is that?
Stephen Douglas wrote several books,
right.
But it is in the 20th century.
Right.
20th century, and this one is called Growing Up.
Right.
Growing up with our children.
One I should look forward to.
Yes,
that quote alone.
Yes,
but speaking of independence in this day and age,
yeah.
Why do you think fostering independence amongst learners is very, very crucial?
It's very, very crucial, because that's where they are heading to. When they grow up, they'll be exposed to that. And as I've told you, Stephen Douglas is where he guides. It is easier to build them when they are still young than waiting for them to grow, and it will be very, very difficult to repair them. Even in Uganda, they say akachama mamera bukagorora obukulu kagira kikamenyeka bumenyi. So we need to grow them, preparing them for the world they will be exposed to. So it is always better you give them experiences when they are still young, so that they can be able to be independent. In the schools, we tell them to take care of their property. We tell them to wash their clothes. These are all issues preparing them to be independent when they grow. And a person who is not independent at growth is very, very difficult to live with. And sometimes they even fail to fend for themselves, because he did not grow up with that preparation. Right. To be free, to be independent, to think through, to work on his own, to make a timetable for his life through the day and so on, and throughout his life.
Right. And in a way that now speaks into the failure of the balance. I'm glad that you are raising such topics, because in the era of our parents or their parents, there was that nurturing that fostered independence. Exactly. But it was extremely strict because it had the conservativeness of culture. And in our day and age, you find that because people are trying to run away from that conservativeness and strictness, they're instead now nurturing less independent human beings.
Exactly.
Yes.
People who cannot cater for themselves.
Right.
People who cannot cater for their families. Now they are talking about men who produce children and fail to take care of them, fail to pay fees for them, because they were not prepared for that early enough.
Reminds me of the Gen Z language amongst the men today, soft life ambassadors. But focusing still on the issue of independence in this day and age, Uganda, or the African culture being as it is, it's rather conservative, it's rather strict. And when we speak of independence in a child, these two seem to contradict. At least in Uganda, we have a saying that omzade tadibwam, you know? So how best do you think policy changes can be integrated into our education system, yet still respect the values of culture, or maybe allow culture to tone it down a little bit?
Yeah. I love that. To tone it down, because culture must remain. Very, very crucial, very important. There are certain things we cannot inculcate into our children without empowering culture.
Right.
But the most important thing which people are now talking about is called mindset change. Mindset change will be able to help us balance between the modern and then the culture, because certain things have come and cannot be pushed away. Certain things have come to live with us, but those ones should not kill the independence that we must give to this child. Culture should really remain there, but a parent, that's why we are emphasizing the issue of parents. Because parents have now gotten too busy, they have gotten too busy to take care of their children. Just as you put it, that in the past, a child had to be in the hands of the parent. Today they say the schools will handle. And the schools are saying, for us, mathematics, science, and social studies. Now, there is the gap that the parent has to really come in. And many of our children, bear me witness, don't get the opportunity to complete school. Many of them drop out in their other schools, don't give what we are sharing here. So you find that a parent has a very, very big role in the life of this child, now and in the future. For the workplace and for the life place and the family place of this child, the parent is nurturing. So those two need to be balanced, the culture and the modernity that we go through here. But it is very, very important there should be controls and control measures without forgetting the independence of the child. Yeah.
And indeed, the government has to take up on that in regards to policy.
Of course. And that's why I'm now very happy with the Ministry of Education and Sports, that they have now come into the curriculum to put things right.
Right.
Yes, this curriculum was started about 15 years ago at the primary level, but did not take very good root. And many schools did not take a keen interest into it. Now that it has come to the secondary level is where everybody is waking up. But it is a very, very good wake-up call that our learners need this space to work using their hands. You remember the 3 domains we started off with. The new curriculum approaches these 3 domains very, very effectively, and you will find us producing better young men in a short future.
Right, nurturing life skills and values, fostering independence in learners is what we are looking at. And to do that with us is Dr. Charles Tony Mukasa Lusambu. He is an UWEZO board member here to speak with us. So for you to engage, 0709-602-592. Now, Dr. Charles,
Yep.
how can teachers and parents be helped to create environments that encourage this form of independence in a child?
Yes, the teachers and parents are already in a space where the curriculum guides this. And I'm here to call upon my colleagues, the teachers out there. Please embrace this curriculum. Don't wait for it to go to the lower secondary. At primary level, we should already start on this to ensure that our children can be able to do certain things using their hands. There are schools which I've heard now don't even allow their children to wash their own clothes. This is very dangerous to our learners. Let the children be able to take care of their property. Let the children be able to wash their clothes. Let the children be able to clean their compound, to clean their toilets and so on. This is where the independence starts, ladies and gentlemen. It is the way we shall be able to train these children. Now the parents, dear parents, I know you are quite busy, but create some useful time to the children. These children allow us, they are a gift from God, but a gift that goes with responsibility. That responsibility for the parents to ensure that these children grow up into useful human beings, useful to themselves, useful to the community where they live, and useful to the entire country, let alone the whole world. If you grow your children like broilers, then we are set to have a very, very dangerous future. Right. I have a slogan which says, our children, our future. Our future, our children. The children are the future of this country. The children are the future of the generation. If we don't take very, very good care of these children, we are doomed to perish. And I'm telling you, a country that does not nurture their children properly is a failed country.
Right. Now let's look at particular strategies that you can point out that have proven effective in helping learners develop that muscle of independence.
The school programs, first and foremost at school. You see, at school, the program is so clear that in the morning we wake up, at break time we get out of class, and so on and so forth, up to evening when we go back home. That arrangement itself is wonderful. I remember Fajir Mande used to tell us by the inception of UPE that by the fact that the child leaves home and goes to school is already education. Yeah, even if he went there and was nothing else happening, but the bells to know that there is time for this, there is time for this, there is time. That one is the independence you start off giving the child to know that there is time for everything and you can make a plan and a program for yourself through the day. That one is very important. Now, that is at school. But at home, there should also, equally, there should be some order. Life is not a vacuum. People should not live should not be so free so that they have no control. The children should be controlled to some extent, and they should know that there is space for them to play, there is space for them to do home chores, there is space for them to fetch water at home, to clean the utensils, to cook and prepare the meals. All this is part of their life, and we are preparing them for the future.
Right.
Thirdly, is to ensure that the human nature is really catered for, because man is not an animal, and man is a social animal. Man is a social animal that is supposed to live with one another. Right. So it is very, very important that both school and home cater for this child, knowing that we are training somebody who will be able to live with one another in the near future. In Uganda now there is what is called Obuntu Bulamu. That is the core value of life, so that children get to know that they must live with one another.
All right. Let's look at challenges, especially in your experience and with your expertise.
Yeah.
Challenges that you've noticed that come with teaching life skills and values in the formal setting of education, because it's quite easy, especially with the older generation. You can tell that it was quite easy to teach life skills and values through the informal setting of home setting. You wake up, you have to do chores, there are things you do first before you probably go to school, or before you have to greet your parents first, or things like that. So what challenges have you noticed in the formal education setting while implementing life skills and values?
The challenges are quite many, but let's mention some, a few. First and foremost, there is the challenge of interpreting the curriculum. Because sometimes when we are designing a curriculum, we fail to pinpoint on some of these life skills to say, now you are teaching problem solving. Now you are teaching financial literacy. Now you are teaching communication. So sometimes some of the teachers fail to interpret this curriculum and fail to bring in the life skills directly. That's number one. Sometimes number two is lack of resources. Number three is lack of manpower, personnel. You go to a school which is 7 classes and they tell you now we have 5 teachers. So you find that because of the insufficient staff at the school, then the teachers go on to teach only subjects that will be examined, only subjects that are examinable, because they have no time to teach these other things. Because some of these things we are discussing are not directly designed into a lesson, but they are taught through clubs, they are taught through extracurricular. And some of these are very, very important and crucial, through the music, dance, and the drama, through the sports, games and sports. And you find some schools don't do these things because of lack of staff and lack of equipment and so on and so forth. So then the other challenge sometimes are the parents themselves who go to school and they say, I didn't bring my child here to sing. I want my child to speak English.
That's all I want.
That's what I want. That's why I brought this child. So those are some of the challenges we find in the school setting.
And speaking of which, what are those barriers, cultural and society barriers, that you can point out that are hindering the nurturing of independence in learners?
Yes, there is the issue of the parent, you don't answer back to your parent. Then there is the issue when adults are talking, the children should keep quiet. The children should not ask questions. This kind of thing. That's where I talked about mindset change. That in this era, this 21st century, if we are to really have our children get that independence, let's allow them. We should have sessions where we open up to our children to discuss freely and so on and so forth. Then another cultural barrier is to say girls don't climb trees, girls don't do this, boys don't cook. That kind of gender segregation is also not very good. Yet in some of our cultures it used to happen. There are certain things we need to tone down, the word you used. We need to tone down certain cultural issues so that we can create good independence amongst our learners to prepare them for a good future.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Charles. You've really given us a very wider picture, but one that is very insightful. As we begin to close this, what are those indicators schools should take note of as they measure or track the progress of independence and critical thinking amongst learners?
Yeah. That's very, very important. And it takes me back to the curriculum again. Every school should sit down and look through some of these values and then make what we could call an assessment sheet.
Right.
And another issue which sometimes really I'm not happy about are these report forms, the end of term, end of year report cards. Many times when you read the report card, we see issues to do with academic, only.
Yes.
And these reports fail to talk about the discipline of the child, the other issues, the other skills we have talked about. What can this child do? What can't this child do? That is non-academic. So I am sharing with my colleague teachers and head teachers to ensure that these reports do not only speak about academic, but I should read a report, and this report should tell me the discipline of my child at school, what fails my child at school, and what he can do, what he cannot do at the school, the competency, capacities of the children.
You remind me of some of the comments that I used to have on my own report card as an infant, as a child.
Yes.
And right now I'm rethinking what the teachers meant. They would write, she's brilliant, she's active, she's social, she's smart, but then she's extremely talkative. So I wonder what that was supposed to inform my parent, whether I should turn down on the talking, or they should engage me in activities that required a lot of talking.
Let me tell you, that's why you are here.
I know.
These are exactly the life skills we are talking about.
But they didn't know then. I had to figure out my own way.
That's what I say, interpretation of the curriculum.
Right.
But because you were talkative, that was already talent in you that had to be developed. And when they developed it, you have a job.
Right.
Yes.
Now, let's look at a couple of comments that have come through. Good morning. I think he's raising great issues, but I think he shouldn't say lack of teachers. Maybe he would say shortage of teachers. Please. Because we have teachers in these schools, but they are few. So let the government recruit more teachers for us to raise all what we want for the children. This is Michael from Tororo.
That's very correct. Insufficient.
Yes.
So
good morning, UBC.
Lack of the correct word.
Right.
Thank you.
Good morning, UBC. I'd like to know whether there is any model or mechanism in place to identify teachers who are there in the profession by calling and not as a secondary option.
Yeah.
Interesting perspective.
A very interesting question, but the teacher policy is trying to address that issue. Because he is right, many teachers used to go to the profession simply because they had failed elsewhere.
Right.
Now the new teacher policy is trying to attract the people who are really in for teaching. That's why they go after senior 6 and they train for 3 years to become teachers, and they come out as graduates.
Right.
You really go there for that degree in teaching because you have chosen it, not because you have failed elsewhere.
Right.
That would be the best.
Right.
I wish it works out.
Right, indeed. Very profound. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. And it's been such an honor to have you on the show. That's Dr. Charles Tony Mukasalu Sambu, Uwezo board member, who's been speaking with us, matters nurturing life skills and values, but in particular fostering independence amongst learners. Thank you so much for being on the show. That's been the discussion of The Real this Monday morning. But Good Morning Uganda does continue. We have JMU Tourism Express, we have business, we have the agenda, we have sports. So it's still a lot more in stock for you, so stay tuned.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Muscari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Brought to you by Uniquely Ours. Explore Uganda.
Good morning, and once again, thank you for joining us on UBC. My name is Zakia Lucky, and we are on Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express. You need to see what we had to adventure within Mungahinga National Park, and right about now we are on Lake Bunyonyi, the deepest lake in Uganda. Today we will be set sailing on the deepest lake, where every ripple tells a story and every breeze carries peace. So join us for a calming yet an eye-opening experience on this boat cruise. And with me is Mr. Ambrose, who is the tour guide on Lake Bunyonyi. He's going to be telling us about the history of this lake. We're happy to have you, Mr. Ambrose.
Thank you so much, Zakia. My name is Mumza Ambrose. I'm the tour guide at Lake Bunyonyi. Thank you so much.
Yes, so many people have heard about the lake.
Yes, please.
Of course, as the deepest lake in Uganda.
Yes.
Please give us a brief history about the lake.
Bunyonyi is one of the beautiful lakes that we have in Uganda, and believed to be the first deepest lake in Uganda and the second deepest in East Africa and Africa at large. This lake is believed to have formed about 10,000 years ago, when there was eruption of the Virunga, of one of the Virunga mountains, way back 10,000 years ago, when the river Ndego was blocked from the other side when heading to Kisoro district, and the river was blocked from there, and then the water had no way out, so it had to reverse back, surrounding the hills that we are standing in the valley, hence the lake was formed.
When we talk about the word Lake Bunyonyi,
yes,
where does this derive from?
Yes, Lake Bunyonyi is the word is spoken by the people who live around the lake, called Bashiga. These is people, when they woke up in the morning and they heard melodies of birds, singing in the morning. That's where the name came from, Bunyonyi, meaning little birds. So it is a home of many little birds, and the researchers say it is a home of up to 200 species of smaller birds. That's where the name came from, Bunyonyi.
Bunyonyi, indeed, or Bunyonyi, just like in our local language.
Yes.
And when we to look at the activities that take place on this particular lake, what is it that you can tell the people out there that would entice them to come and visit this place?
Yes, we have many activities that you can do around Lake Bunyonyi. Bunyonyi being in the hills, you can do hiking in one of the hills. We have Chabahinga Hill. It's a hill that is favorable for hiking, especially if you want to see the whole lake and the islands. That's the hill that you do hiking on. Then we have boat riding, we have canoeing as well, and the zip lining. Especially canoeing is one of the favorable activities that we do here on Lake Bunyonyi.
Talking about zip lining, it is one of the things that we look after too, as the team is going to be headed there.
Yes.
Especially when you're told this is the deepest lake and you're told about zip lining on the deepest lake. It's one of the things that would scare you, but we are yet to experience it. Yes, so why would one choose to come to Lake Bunyonyi other than going to any other lake? What is it that is found here and you cannot find in any other place?
Lake Bunyonyi is one of the special lakes and one of the beautiful lakes that we have in Uganda, because Bunyonyi is free from bilharzia. It's one of the lakes that are free from bilharzia. So swimming can be done on Bunyonyi, not in the other lakes of Uganda. The lake is free from hippos and crocodiles, since it is not connected anywhere with the river Nile, for the Nile crocodiles come here. So the lake is very, very safe, at the same time, very nice for swimming.
You just heard it yourself. It is bilharzia free, very free for swimming, no crocodiles. So like I told you, we are going in for the activity. Wait and see what we have to find within zip lining on the deepest lake again.
My name is Kakuru Jeremiah. I'm one of the instructors of here at Supreme Adventure Park, Bunyonyi. There is also Ronald, there's also Jeremiah. We're all instructors, and we are here to make sure that you are safe when you are doing these challenges or high lobs courses here at Supreme Adventure Park. We call these carabiners or hooks. On your waist, there is a pulley, and the whole of this gear is called a harness. So let's go back on the clips. These clips are the ones which will be attaching them on a lifeline. When I talk of a lifeline, just a metal cable which is painted red. So when you look here, when you look around that tree, there is that lifeline. So whenever you see that wire, just put one of your clips to make sure that you are safe, right? So you'll be attaching them on a lifeline like this. If you put one here like this, you put the second clip like here, like this. And you are not supposed to unhook this one before you unhook this one, because if you go straight like this, now see, this one is pulling me back. So what I need to do, I first take off the one which is behind. I put it in front where I'm going. I take off the second one, still on the lifeline. I take off this one. I put it on this ring here. This one to here. Are you all seeing me well? Yeah. But when you reach on this wire here, if one clip is facing this side, if it's facing me, the second clip is supposed to face the other side. Why? Because if they're all facing in one direction, it will be easy for them to get out at the same time. Eh? But if they're facing in different directions, it will not be easy for them to get out at the same time. In case if someone has called you, pause for the peak. Now from there, you hold either on the wire, or you go holding nothing, like me. Until you reach on the next platform. Still do the same by taking off one at a time. You take off this one, you hook it on the second zip, and the second lifeline. You take off the second one on the same lifeline. If you reach on these obstacles, you hold one first. You put in your foot. You hold the second one, you put in your foot until you finish them.
Right after the experience, now we're getting to know how this felt for me. Of course, it's not my first time, but let's get to see. We had some cry, others were scared to go, but they did conquer. Let's get to hear from them. Share with us your experience.
Oh my God, it was not easy at the beginning because I was so scared and actually was regretting that I could maybe go back. But when I reached, it was a very good experience. Come and have an experience here.
Okay.
The experience was not an easy one. I felt like going back, but I felt like actually letting the ropes down and I fall. Probably they would like maybe give me a first aid. I've reached down, but it was impossible. You had to still continue and get the whole experience. But it's actually a good experience.
What was your experience?
My experience was amazing. The rope course is a challenge.
I'm told you wanted to touch water. That's all you needed.
Yes, that was my aim. I needed to touch the fresh waters of Lake Bunyonyi.
You can imagine what it was like zip lining on top of the deepest lake in Uganda. There's only one way to find out. Just come and experience it.
Brought to you by Uniquely Ours. Explore Uganda.
Well, a big thank you to Uganda Tourism Board for sponsoring JMU Tourism Express and making sure that we get to enjoy that some of that beautiful adventure through the visual effects of UBC TV. Thank you so much. And for someone who loves adventure, that was really exciting. It's time for JMU Business. Good morning, Uganda. My name is Julie Nantaba Mosisi, and we're kicking this off with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives that will certify business development service providers to enable entrepreneurs access business advice. The Assistant Commissioner Training and Business Skills Development in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Johnson Abitekaniza, says certification will improve sustainable for businesses. Business development services are important for entrepreneurs and businesses as they provide the support needed to improve performance, access to markets and enhance competitiveness. Now, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and Agribusiness Market Ecosystem Alliance, AMEA, are working towards the certification of business development service providers. Now, this comes after realization that there is low uptake of business development services, an issue that has led to the collapse of many businesses. Business development services framework has already been developed, and this will support the accreditation process for the service providers. Improving business development will help businesses overcome challenges related to management, marketing, and technical know-how. Now, flowers and plant lovers under the umbrella body United Tropical Planters Association have expressed their love and affection for nature, citing their significance. This was at the closure of a 3-day exhibition held at National Theatre in Kampala. The exhibitors from various parts of the country were at National Theatre grounds to showcase the beauty, diversity, and horticulture significance. Gardeners, landscape designers, events promoters, and other plant enthusiasts to mention but a few, all expressed their love for flowers and plants. Unlike in the Western culture where many people already embraced the concept, it's a new trend in Uganda where flowers are in offices. Plants and flowers are used for beauty, decoration, educational components, herbal and medicinal, yet others are edible. Hanifa Nasimbwa Kamulegea, a nature lover and beautician, however, says plants and flowers are used to restore soil fertility and value addition. Louis Nakayenga Chibuka, a trained events pianist, also founder of Piano Events, joyfully revealed her artistic designs made from plants. The events manager, United Tropical Planters Association, Kevin Samula, says the event was organized to provide a platform for 90% of the women into this business to sell their products. In the exhibition, a wide range of plants including trees, shrubs and other foliage, as well as flowers, provided a platform for gain ideas and techniques from the garden or landscape. Trade event also provided opportunities for industry professionals to share knowledge and explore potential business partnerships. Now moving on, the United Border Riders Cooperative Union has begun dispatching cheap-to-buy motorcycles to riders across the country. The launch event took place at the union's head office in Kansanga. For riders like David Ndaula from Chiboga district, this is a game changer. Border riding pays his children's school fees and keeps the home running. But some companies that loan motorcycles have proved a menace to them by the time one ends completing payment, costing as much as 12 million Uganda shillings, leaving them with no savings. Border Union will reverse this trend. Under its new credit arrangement, motorcycles will be accessible to riders at around 7 million Uganda shillings, nearly half of what many have been paying under exploitative financing. Border Union Secretary General Sengembe John Bosco notes many riders will no longer sell off inherited land just to pay off border loans. Motorcycles have already been dispatched to riders in Chiboga, Mukono and Jinja, with the distribution expected to continue across the country in the coming weeks. Now, looking at the forex rates as of last Friday, the US dollar opened at 3,581.00 and was selling at 3,591.00, and by midday it was buying at 3,580.91 and selling at 3,590.91. It closed in at 3,580.68, pardon me, and sold at 3,590.68. The British pound by midday was buying at 4,896.53 and selling at 4,910.21, and the euro was buying at 4,218.67 and selling at 4,230.45. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 27.71 and selling at 27.79, and the Tanzanian shilling was at 1.35 and selling at 1.35. Finally, the South African rand was buying at 204.66 and selling at 205.23. Well, that is it from the forex rates, but looking at another story that is exciting, especially for Rotaractors. The Rotaract Club of Ntinda installed their new president and the charter night at Nob View Hotel Ntinda. President Isaac Murungi pledged to take on the mantle and continue with club projects. Several Rotaractors, Rotarians and other dignitaries attended. We leave you with that report.
I'm very excited to have installed President Isaac Murungi, and I want to tell you it has been a very nice function. I want to appreciate the outgoing President Allen, for doing a very good job. We have had her report, and I want to tell you she has impacted the communities as she has read the report.
I want to thank everyone who has come through to celebrate with us on our 27th presidential installation here at Rotary Club of Ntinda. My name is Isaac Murungi, who is the president of Ntinda. So again, I want to say thank you so much, whoever has made it, Rotarians, Rotaractors, guests, and every well-wisher who has contributed towards this function. Yeah, so we are very, very happy and delighted to have been with you on this day. Well, another thing, I want to thank my magical president, President Allen, for doing some great work in the past year. And I also want to say,
throughout the year, our years normally begin from July 1st to July of the other year. And throughout the year, so far, we have a few projects that we have managed to accomplish, including a Jinja Village project. We managed to actually visit Jinja. We were in position to support the team that was there. It was a slum, Jinja, and these people actually don't have where to dispose their wastes. So we went and managed to have a medical camp there that was in March. and we also managed to start up a public toilet. Soon, hopefully by November, we shall have completed it, and we support them that way. We had
President Isaac for reaching such an occasion whereby he's installed as its next president. As the mother club, we promise that we shall be able to support Rotary Club of Untinda and President Isaac during this year to ensure that we reach out and serve humanity as a team. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Viola Nakate from the Rotary Club of Ntinda, and this past Rotary year I was the PR of this club, the Rotary Club of Ntinda. That year we had President Allen, and it was a very wonderful year. We had various projects like tree planting and many others. So today we've been here at the installation of President Isaac Murungi, and this is the Unity President 2025-2026. We expect a lot of things, and as you know, Rotary and Rotaract is a very good space for us all. So I encourage you, all of you out there, to join Rotaract or Rotary. Come and join us. Let us serve the community. I wish you good.
For the first time. Only once is enough. All right.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah yo,
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000, or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko. Yo. What you go? Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. Okay. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Muscari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights,
and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala.
We have to change the political culture in this country, really. Who has bewitched Ugandans?
I want to assure you, as government, we shall do whatever it takes to ensure that Ugandans are safe.
We have conversations that have analysis, explanation.
This law society, this union of theirs, because they want a job everywhere, they want to be this, they want to be that, they want... No. We know it's a union.
You cannot be making a road, bitumen grade 1, in Congo for 5 billion.
But not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth.
The argument that the General Court Martial is responsible for peace and stability is without basis, either in law or in fact.
We have been told how Napoleon was a great orator. Now, Napoleon cannot help me get food. They told me combine harvest in Saskatchewan. I don't know where Saskatchewan is. This is a geographer we taught. Instead of teaching me how to preserve Mabera forest, they're teaching me about Rhineland. This is a problem we got. We cannot run away from it.
Right now, you hear very disgusting stories of members of parliament. Instead of discussing the details of loans, they ask for their cuts.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for watching UBC TV. Time for the agenda, where we get to have a conversation with an expert to speak into the conversation that we have. Now, the number for you to engage is 0709 602592. It's a WhatsApp number that you can either ask your question using that number or just share your opinion using that number. Now, about the end of June, the Uganda AIDS Commission did indeed release the news that Uganda was rolling out a 6-month HIV prevention injection. And this is to help in the curbing of the spread of HIV and AIDS. But to help us understand this better is Dr. Daniel Byamukama from the Uganda AIDS Commission. Welcome to the conversation and be a part of it once again, 0709-602-592. Dr. Daniel, good morning.
Morning.
And you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, starting with this as a preamble and to someone as well as someone who might not even know, or as an icebreaker, what exactly does the Uganda AIDS Commission have as a role in its fight against HIV and AIDS in Uganda?
So thank you. So I will start from history.
All right.
Around 1992, most of the listeners were not yet born. And at that time, the HIV epidemic was real. There was real AIDS.
Right.
People were wasting away and dying. And there was no treatment at that time. The Ministry of Health had tried to mount a response, a medical response, like they do for all other diseases. But our president made a realization that the problem of HIV, to contain the HIV epidemic, you needed beyond the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health alone would not have succeeded in containing the epidemic. So the government initiated what we call a multi-sectoral HIV response. A multi-sectoral HIV response means that they realized that every sector had a role, because the determinants of spread of HIV are under almost every docket. It is behavior. You cannot remove the religious leader from talking about abstinence and being faithful. He's more qualified than the doctor in the hospital. It is poverty. You cannot remove the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Agriculture from fighting poverty. It is keeping people in school. You cannot remove people, it's such things. So they decided we should have a multi-sectoral HIV response. But to make sure that all sectors were well connected, they all spoke and were aiming at one goal. They created the Uganda AIDS Commission directly under the office of the president to help coordinate all the sectors so that we come up with the overall strategy. The temptation for certain sects or for certain groups, like religious groups, to come up with their own message is always high. The temptation for herbalists to come up with their own message is always high. But the Uganda AIDS Commission helps all of us speak to one strategy so that all those other opinions you have don't come. It helps coordinate all stakeholders to make sure nobody's effort is letting others down. It helps monitor, give you data. Today I'll be sharing with you data on how we are making progress. It helps make a diagnosis, evaluate how we are progressing, and advise stakeholders where there are gaps and how they can coordinate them. It helps with raising finances for the HIV response, among other things. But the main one is that we are the overall coordinator. We are the ones who come up with a national strategy, which everybody now must subscribe to. The strategy, we believe, will move us to the next step in the national targets to end AIDS as a public health threat.
Right. Now, Uganda is set to roll out the 6 months HIV prevention injection. And for viewers who might be hearing it for the very first time, and probably they've been caught unawares by the news itself, what exactly is this injection? And how does it work anyways?
So thank you. This injection is called lenacapavir. It was recently confirmed as a new HIV prevention tool. So it's an addition to what we already had. We already had number one, abstinence, which remains key, and we shall not drop it in spite of this injection. We remained with being faithful. Be faithful, behavior change. We had condoms already. We had circumcision. We had post-exposure prophylaxis for those who have gotten injury or been accidentally exposed. But we also had pre-exposure prophylaxis, a category of prevention tools which is for the HIV negative who have not yet been exposed, but because of their behavior, they know they will get exposed. They come to hospital, we give them drugs which will help them not contract HIV in case they get exposed. So in that category of what we call PrEP or pre-exposure prophylaxis, we already had the oral daily pill. So several of our people are taking a pill every day to make sure they don't contract HIV because they cannot afford to manage the circumstances. They cannot afford to abstain or be faithful. There is another one called the long-acting injectable cabotegravir. This is the injection we just recently introduced, but this one is for every 2 months. So in a year, a person was getting 6 injections. But the one you're talking about today, which we believe will contribute significantly to our goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat in this country, is this injectable lenacapavir. This is an injection that is given below the skin. We call it subcutaneous. You get 2 small injections in a year. It removes your chance of contracting HIV completely. So, number one, of all the tools we have, apart from abstinence, we have never had a tool that protects you 100%.
Indeed, I wanted to ask you, because with condoms, they'll tell you, yes, it's effective, but it cannot be 100%.
Yes, condoms,
so,
you are bound to make a mistake or something.
Yes.
So, condoms, you must use them consistently and correctly for them to give you like 98% protection. But this is 100%. That is rule number one. We have never had, apart from abstinence, a tool that is 100% effective. Number two, of all the tools we had, so many people had challenges with using them. Take an example like a condom. There is so much stigma associated with using a condom. It takes nerves to go to a shop and you say, please give me a packet of condoms. There are very few people who can do that. That is number one. But even partners, as individuals, have preferences. So many people detest using a condom, especially people who have been married before. And I will tell you much more where they rank in the number of HIV infections, people who have been married. So it had its own challenges, challenges of stigma, challenges of being disliked. When you look at the pre-exposure prophylaxis that I already talked about, that we already had, the oral daily pill. So you can imagine taking a pill every day for more than 3 months, for more than a year. There are very few people who would actually get a prize in excelling in that area. So it itself had a challenge of pill burden. Equally, it had a challenge of stigma. To see you taking pills every day so that you can be protected from contracting HIV, so many people would want to judge you. So many people would try to put you in a category of the lesser, morally lesser human being. Yet you are doing the right thing. But we see this lenacapavir, it brings 2 main advantages. Number one, it is very convenient. 2 injections in a year, that you have to visit a hospital only twice in a year. You have to interact with a health worker only twice in a year. Even if you are a child and you get transport money once in a blue moon, I'm very sure even those who are set back because of transport to go to the facility, they would manage this one. Number two, it is discreet because the other prevention tools are associated with stigma, are associated with the consent of your partner. You need, if you're a young woman, you need the consent of your partner to use a condom. It's a very difficult negotiation. Here, you have your injection, your partner doesn't know, you don't need his permission or her permission, and you're 100% protected. So we believe at the Uganda AIDS Commission that if this tool is rolled out and everybody in Uganda at risk of contracting HIV accesses this tool, if it comes like right now, our dream of ending AIDS as a public health threat, our commitment as a country to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 will, in no doubt, be attained.
Right. Speaking of injections and medicines, there are those that come with side effects,
yes,
even drugs as well at that.
Yes.
Are there any side effects you've noted that come with lenacapavir?
Now, that's a good question. Number one, all medicines have some side effects. Fortunately, this drug also has some side effect. So it has been in use for treatment of HIV in developed countries because it is a very expensive medication. The research that discovered that it can also be used for prevention is the only new thing. But we have known this drug for quite some time. So it has very mild side effects, like headache, slight headache when you started using it, like nausea, feeling like vomiting, when they have started using it, but as you go along, you get used to it. The main challenge it has is that it must be given by a health worker. Because the trick of giving an injection, if one makes a mistake and tries to inject themselves, and you inject in the skin, you inject wrongly, you can cause an ulcer. It can create a wound. So the limitation is that it must be given by a trained health worker, because if you make a mistake, it can cause an injury. It can result in a wound, which of course comes up as a shortfall. Because for us to effectively roll out such an effective tool, we would want to put it in the hands of as many people as possible who are close to the community. This includes community health workers. It includes volunteers. So this tool is not for volunteers. It's not for
VHT.
For VHT. It's not for the proactive women in the communities. No. This one is for the health worker who is trained in giving an injection subcutaneously, because any mistake, you can cause a wound. You can cause a major cosmetic blemish.
Right. Now, you did talk about the fact that from where it started and it's starting, it's quite expensive. Yeah. And given the 8 cuts that took place in the world at the beginning of the year, how accessible in terms of cost shall it be for Ugandans, especially underserved areas?
Yeah, you raise a very important consideration. Recently, we received bad news from the government of the United States. The United States of America has been the single government that supports our HIV response by providing with more than half the resources that we need for HIV treatment and for prevention. For HIV treatment, they're still giving us that support. But for HIV prevention, they have literally removed almost all support. This lenacapavir falls under HIV prevention. It looks like we have to look anywhere else other than the United States government. That is of great consequence. And that is a case we must make to our policymakers. They must find this money. Because the cost of putting somebody on treatment for life, if you look at it, it is better that we start taking prevention seriously. And we must make a case to our leaders. Are you going to find money for putting people on treatment? The number of people who need treatment keeps increasing. Our new estimates now is that we're above 1.52 million, 1,520,000 people who are HIV positive in this country. By the end of next year, when I return here, I can promise you they will have reached 1.55. So the number keeps increasing. That means the number of people requiring HIV treatment keeps increasing. We have an opportunity to turn off the tap. Can we make a case to our policymakers, to our leaders, to Parliament, to prioritize this medication? I think that's where we must go. Secondly, the cost is high, and that's the cost of manufacture before you consider marketing. When you get a big market, as is expected, the costs always go down. We have seen this with several other drugs that have been manufactured. Almost all other drugs, when they are announced and cleared from research, the cost is initially high. But we have discovered from past experience that through advocacy, we have advocates who will go and address in front of the director, the CEO of Gilead Sciences, the pharmacy that manufactured this drug. They will address, they will shout at him, and then he will go back and tell his board members and say, we must bring down, let's reduce the profit we expect on this drug. That is one way. Advocacy will bring this down. Right. But also the market. We are right now excited as a country because of this discovery, even though we don't have it here yet. I would want listeners to know clearly that it's not yet in the country. But we want you charged to advocate, to know about it, and prepare to ask for it, so that we know that we have a market for it. So once the market increases, we are aware that every country in the world is excited about discovery. Right. So we hope that the market for this drug will be high, and it will result in a significant reduction in costs. By the time we have done all the preparations to make this drug available here, it will be at what is affordable, that can be paid for by our government, and even by our remaining donors. Right now, we have one remaining major donor who funds HIV prevention. It's called the Global Fund. We are in conversation, at least to fund the initial doses of demonstration, the demonstration programs of how this drug shall be rolled out, the training of health workers to make sure we are ready to roll out this drug. But I must agree that we must make a strong case with our policymakers to fund this key tool, which looks like it's a game changer.
Right, and indeed you make a very pertinent point, seeing as the president's goal is that by 2030, the HIV prevention should be high, that it's no longer a public health threat. And speaking of that goal, how significant is this development in the context of HIV prevention to Uganda?
Like I said, this is a potential game changer.
Right.
We have not had tools that are as convenient to use. I know there are a few people who fear an injection, but 2 injections in a year is not too bad. It's so effective that if we target at least the highest at risk, from research, we see that we need to give 40 injections, to put 40 people on this treatment to prevent 1 single HIV infection. So when we consider that last year we had 37,000 new HIV infections, it looks like we need to put more than 1 million people on this treatment to see effect. That means this drug must work in the context, because the research was done in the context where all the other tools were at work. Religious leaders were still in church preaching about abstinence and being faithful. Teachers were still in school teaching about abstinence and being responsible citizens. Families were still working. All the other tools, including condoms, must continue. They must go on, but we believe a significant number of our people must access this drug. If we can get at least 1.5 million people, of the people we consider at highest risk of contracting HIV, and we know them. That's the work of the Uganda AIDS Commission. We have already mapped out. We know, number one, that the highest number of HIV infections are among adolescent girls and young women between the age of 15 and 29. We can still categorize them further in detail to show that if we put our money to helping this girl, we shall get value for money. The end result shall control most of the new HIV infection. We have seen that the second highest number of new HIV infections are among formerly married men. The men who have divorced or separated from their spouses, they take rank number 2. Number 3, formerly married women. The women who have abandoned their husbands and their marriages, formerly married, divorced women, they take rank number 3 in the number of new HIV infections. Number 4, they are sex workers. So you can imagine that formerly married women contract HIV at a rate more than the sex worker. So they are number 4. The 4 groups of people I've talked about account for almost 80% of all new HIV infections in the country. If we can reach these, we would have reduced the number of HIV infections by more than 78%. But there are other small groups. There are young men who are equally active, who behave like sex workers, only that they don't do it for income. Right. And there are other smaller population groups like fishermen, like truck drivers. So we know the populations that are really behind the epidemic in this country. If we can target these populations and we allow them to access this drug, it's so costly, but for the target high priority population groups, we would convince the government to buy it for the sake of this. And it is important that we buy for the sex worker this medication. There are 2 reasons.
Yes.
The sex worker is a mother. Is going to give birth to a child. And if they are born with HIV, they will be a burden to the country.
Right.
The sex worker is also a son or a daughter of this country. Right. If they contract HIV, she will be a burden to the country. The sex worker has customers. Some of them are men you don't expect. Right. The sex workers, some of them have husbands. So the HIV of the sex worker, in spite of society judgment of their morality, must be addressed. if we don't address, they don't live in isolation. Their HIV spreads to the general population, and we end up with people we don't expect. So it is important that as we prepare to consider the needs of these high-risk groups, the ones I think should be prioritized for this expensive prevention tool. We cannot make it available for everybody. I heard you talk about school children. We cannot give it to school. It will not be cost effective to give it to everybody because we already have other tools. If somebody's risk is a one-off, your faithful husband in the villages in Imbarara, you only make mistakes when you have traveled to Kampala for a conference, the condom is there for you. You are not for this injection. One mistake in the 2 years, that is for a condom. If you're young people in school, abstinence is still there for you. We still are training teachers. We are training religious leaders. We are training journalists like yourselves to still preach the message of abstinence, be faithful, use a condom. We are still procuring condoms and making them available. So we are still encouraging people to circumcise. We have discovered, when we look at the statistics of all the people I've told you, if I look at an example of formerly married men, the divorced separated men, I've told you they take position number 2 in the number of new HIV infections. But when we break that population group further, between the circumcised formerly married man and the uncircumcised formerly married man, we see that the uncircumcised man takes a run share of all new HIV infections among men. More than 90% of all new HIV infections among married men are occurring among the uncircumcised man. Circumcision is not bulletproof, but I would want to assure the listener that many men make mistakes. They go and engage in sexual activity when they had not planned to. And there are so many. And they have nothing on them. So to go with the protection that circumcision gives, which is 60% protection, my friends, 60% is so big. And when at the end of the year, we do analysis of who is contracting HIV in the country, we discover that that's 60%. You better go with 60% because you may go with nothing anyway.
None at all.
With none at all. And from our statistics, so many people are getting away because of that 60%. So circumcision must continue so that most of the population is protected by the traditional tools we already had. Lenacapavir, this expensive injectable, we shall try, because of its cost, to map out the highest risk groups to access this expensive tool.
Right, you've really indeed painted a very profound foundation for us in regards to this injection. Let me engage a couple of your comments. The number is 0709602592. It's a WhatsApp number. Ask your question or share your opinion. And Dr. Daniel Byamukama from the Uganda AIDS Commission is here with us to speak into it as he gives us insight into the rollout of the 6 months injection, HIV prevention injection, that is lenacapavir, that was announced to be a part of the game-changing components of preventing HIV and AIDS in Uganda. Now, good morning, UBC. How was your weekend? It was great. Thank you for asking. How was yours? I want to know the little. Oh, okay, you're asking about another program in another program. That's quite off, but thank you so much for being on the show. We do take your comment serious and we'll engage later on. But coming back to what we are talking about right now. Good morning, UBC. Thank you for this word of wisdom. We used to hear a short-term injectable PrEP called cabotegravir, which is given for 2 months, but we have never seen it delivered. I don't know the availability of lenacapavir in the country. Well, lenacapavir is not yet in the country, but let this information come straight from the horse's mouth so that it's clear and straight to you. Dr. Daniel, speaking to this.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, the listener who has asked that question. It is a very good question because in it, there are so many lessons to learn as we plan to roll out this important drug called lenacapavir.
Right.
Lenacapavir is an injectable, 6 monthly, but we already had another injection for prevention called long-acting cabotegravir, which we gave 2 monthly. If I look at the time, long-acting cabotegravir was approved for use. It took us close to 3 years to make that drug available in this country. That is lesson number one, that a similar tool, though more frequently given, was announced in 2021, approved for use. It took us up to 2024 to make it available here. We cannot afford to wait again like that. So it is an opportunity for us to call upon the stakeholders, including our political leaders who are here. Let them raise this on the floor of Parliament. We cannot wait for 3 years for a very effective like this. We have learned lessons, we take time. And that's because partly, a major part of our response was driven by donors. So you have to wait for the planning cycle of the donor. And partly, we are not proactive enough. But I think with this lenacapavir, we cannot afford to wait. So whatever is there to be done, including by government, including by civil society, they are key at advocating, including by our development partners, we want it done now. We cannot afford to wait for 3 years. So cabotegravir, number 2, was purely funded by donor money. And because it was funded by donor money, it is available in only a few doses they could afford to fund. They give us a location they want. That does not take care of our needs and interests. It is what they can afford. But with a very impactful drug like lenacapavir, that's why we think the government should take it up. Parliament should discuss this and allocate us the resources we need to make this drug available in a timely manner and in adequate doses to create an impact on the national HIV response so that as a country, we do not default on our commitment to end AIDS as a public health threat. Actually, without the lenacapavir, when I look at how we are progressing towards the goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030, there was a risk that we are going to default on the commitment. But this lenacapavir, if it's embraced by our leaders and funded, I can guarantee our commitment by 2030, we shall hit it and we shall celebrate as a country to have finally defeated AIDS.
Right. Now, another question coming in is from Douglas. Douglas from Kanungu. You say, hi, thank you for the Doc Talk show. This is actually Good Morning Uganda, and it's time for the agenda on Good Morning Uganda. But we are with Dr. Daniel Byamukama from the Uganda AIDS Commission. And you say, according to the doctor, the vaccine is supposed to be given 2 years to the individual. This is a question. Is the vaccine supposed to be given 2 years to the individual?
So thank you for that question. Number one, I must clarify that this is not a vaccine. This is prevention. This is, but it is even better than a vaccine. You know, most vaccines are not 100% effective. Most vaccines, they do not remove completely the risk of contracting the disease. Most vaccine, you'll be vaccinated for measles, but you'll get a mild form of measles. So most vaccines, but this one is 100%. It's not a vaccine. You require to take it every 6 months. So we take 2 injections in a year, not every 2 years. So every 6 months, you come, we test you for HIV, and we give you an injection. It is important that every time you come for an injection, we test you for HIV to avoid the risk of developing resistance. Because some people may contract HIV and come back. We must test them.
Right.
So it is not a vaccine, and it's taken 2 injections in a year, not an injection every 2 years.
Right. Douglas again comes through and says, does the vaccine, it's not a vaccine as doctor has rightly put it, also have a negative response towards someone using other drugs to the chronic diseased individual? So in case anyone already has other underlying health issues, does it have a negative response towards their health?
Yes. Now, that is, as I said, this drug shall be prescribed by a health worker. It shall not be in the hands of the community leaders. The health worker shall be shall be trained to identify the few classes of drugs which interact with this drug. Yes, they are known drugs. which interact with this drug, but I don't want to cause you anxiety. But the health worker shall be trained to know which of those drugs and to assess without causing anxiety whether really the problem is real and to identify for you whether the drug is interacting. There are signs that come up if the drug is interacting with the other drug you're already taking. So most of the drugs it interacts with, there are very few people who are using those drugs, and we do not want to cause anxiety. The health worker will tell you and assess whether you should actually, which of the drugs you should leave.
Right.
But there are very few drugs not taken regularly by regular human beings.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. The number is 0709-602-592. Now, Doctor, let's look at the issue of trust. How are you building trust in this injection?
So thank you. Number one, the research that led to the approval of this drug was conducted in this country. Our own people in Masaka, in Mubende, all over in several centers in the country participated in this research. We did not see any issue with the trust for this drug. It was researched here, and as I said, it was only recently approved. It was approved for use in the United States on 18th of June. That is less than a month ago. We have not started any meaningful engagement with society to prepare them to receive this drug. But this is one of the ways. But we are making preparations to prepare the community, to create demand, to create advocacy, because we would want the community to advocate for this resource with their leaders so that they put money to it. So we are yet to start training health workers, training civil society leaders to know about this drug, to take the message to the people, to know how effective it is. So we do not expect an issue of trust. And like I said, we have been in the business of offering pre-exposure prophylaxis. Right. So the community is already a little aware, though not sufficiently aware of the pre-exposure prophylaxis programs, but we believe the impactfulness, the potential impact of this drug, we shall go an extra mile to create enough demand and to look for additional resources to make sure this drug is available to the people, and it will involve various other communication channels that will ensure communities trust this product and make effective use of it.
Right. Hello, UBC. Thank you for the information. My question is, what if you get the infection and after you sleep with an infected person with HIV and AIDS? How will the situation be on your side? That's why doctors said that you have to first be tested before administration takes place. Good morning, UBC, and good morning, Dr. Daniel. Some of us know him as a star on that one. This is Freeman from Gulu. Very insightful presentation. What plan do we have to sensitize the public about this new tool for its acceptance? We know of people in the community that are always against any new development related to health. This is Freeman from Gulu.
Thank you, Freeman. Now, this is one of the ways of preparing the community to get to know about this drug and to ask more questions, to ask all the health workers in the districts. So we have a plan to train the health workers. We have a plan to train civil society to know about this drug so that they can go out and teach people about the prevention tools. This together with the other prevention tools, but most especially we want people to know that there is this drug. We have had a challenge with other forms of pre-exposure prophylaxis because people were not aware. Most people were not aware of that tool. We recently did the research among sex workers. We discovered when we told them about pre-exposure prophylaxis, around 80% said, we would want that drug right now. But only 20 had ever used it. So you can see the gap is real. But I said the gap is real because previously we did not have resources. So you do not create demand, you do not educate the masses when you don't have a plan to meet the demand. So as much as we are talking about it on TV, the real mass mobilization education can only be reasonable after we have secured a commitment from our government that this resource will be available for those in need. And I can promise you, Mr. Freeman, we shall come down. We shall debate that person who is always powering water on good programs, and we have always defeated them. We shall defeat them. We would make sure that this tool is accessed by all those who need it, so that we contribute to attaining our goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2020. It will be a very happy day when we announce that there was no new HIV infection in Uganda this year. It will be a happy day when we announce that the number of people contracting the number of people living with HIV reduced by 50,000 last year. Because that's a journey we want. Because as people age, some people start dying from natural diseases, other natural causes. So if we are adding no new HIV infections, the number of people living with HIV in this country shall keep on reducing, and we shall finally have nobody with AIDS in this country. It will be a happy day, and we can work towards that.
Indeed.
And we believe this tool is going to turn off the tap, and we shall start seeing the number of new HIV infections we report every year. Today, I reported that we are 1.52 million people living with HIV in this country. The last time I was on this show, I must have reported that we are around 1.49 million people living with HIV. Every time I come, I report an increasing number. We are waiting for that day when we start reporting a decreasing number of the total number of people living with HIV. And with this lenacapavir, if it is taken up proactively and we scale it up across the country, reaching everybody that is at high risk, we are on our journey to start reporting to you a decreasing epidemic and reducing the number of HIV in the country.
We are looking forward indeed to the day we celebrate that no new cases have been recorded in a whole year in Uganda. Good morning, UBC. Thomas of Manyangwa is asking, how best are you fighting fake drugs on the market in case lenacapavir comes into the country officially?
Yeah, that's a good question. Fake drugs have been a historical problem, but I can assure you we have already successfully fought fake drugs on the market. And one of the ways is through the National Drug Authority. We have an institution under the Ministry of Health called the National Drug Authority, which tests the drugs, number one, and does surveillance. They do policing in the community, in the pharmacies, to make sure the drugs are actually of the quality and are from the right source. But at the same time, the way we designate our pre-exposure prophylaxis program, we have designated centers which receive supplies strictly from our channels of procurement, so it reduces the risk of finding that an accredited center, which is not short of drugs, free drugs, is trying to buy fake drugs. So the chances of fake drugs infiltrating such a program, like an HIV treatment program, like PrEP program, is actually reduced because most of the drugs are free, they are available, they follow a certain well-monitored channel. I don't see the incentive of somebody making a fake drug to come and compete with already existing free drugs, which are well-monitored. So the chance is almost not there.
This is the final question that we are posing to Dr. Daniel, and Dr. Daniel, you use that same route to give us your parting shot. This is Atibo Stanley from Arua. Thank you, Doctor, for this initiative. At what age is this drug administered? In case someone gets the first dose and happens to sleep with someone who is positive, can he or she get the virus? That's a question from Atibo in Arua.
So this drug is recommended for all people who have attained 35 kilograms. That is many people. Nowadays, even children have 35 kilograms. So, but you must be of age at risk. So it's not for everybody. We shall not go to school to start injecting children. It is for people at high risk. That involves sex workers. It involves people living in settings where they are helpless. They cannot afford abstinence. They cannot afford being faithful. They cannot afford to use a condom. And there are so many people who live in such circumstances. So they are the ones who benefit from this drug. And we shall educate them. Usually when we start you on pre-exposure prophylaxis, we first assess you and give you counseling. On now that you have started on the drug, how long will it take you to start engaging in sexual activity? So we shall train our people on all those details when the time comes. So as my parting shots, I have two main issues that I want to address. Number one, we have been running a pre-exposure prophylaxis program as a country. That means we have been giving medication to people who are HIV negative, but because of their circumstances beyond the control of individuals, most of these people engage in high-risk behaviors. The community's natural temptation is to judge these people. They are not responsible. But I want to tell you, if you listen to these people, most of them live in circumstances. Circumstances have connived to disempower them. Look at adolescent girls and young women. Little young women, physically not fit to fight, but they are being abused left and right. We would want to put aside the judgment, the moral judgment, and understand that there are people who are disempowered by their circumstances, and if we don't protect them with drugs like pre-exposure prophylaxis, if they contract HIV, they will take it to the general population.
Right.
For that sake, let's work together. Number two, our other tools shall continue. Like I said earlier, this drug, the government cannot afford it for everybody, including school children. So it's not a tool to disease, for people to put the foot of the pedal. We want the leaders in the HIV response who have been preaching abstinence not to stop. Because the research that proved this drug effective was done in the context where all the other programs were at play. Right. Condoms were available. Being faithful was being preached and taught. People are being faithful. Abstinence were being taught to children. Those programs must stop because this drug was developed in that context. Yeah. And this drug alone is not for everybody. Some people fear an injection. Right. Some people will not qualify. So I want to call all leaders in the HIV response not to give up because of this drug. It will not replace all the work you are doing, but to come in to complement the work you're already doing. Let's work together to make sure we do not default on our commitment as a country of engage as a public health threat by 2030. All
right. Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Byamukama from the Uganda AIDS Commission. I want to also thank you for being on the show. Ruben is coming up with JMU Sports. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby dundolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25